What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it.
Escapism is something that I've brought up in a few of my videos in the past. If you don't know what escapism is, it's simply just wanting to get away from the harsh realities of the world.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
This is usually done through various forms of entertainment. As human beings, we have many ways in which we can engage in escapism and have done so throughout our species' history. A perfect example of this is back during World War II, when Hollywood and the film industry around the world gave everyday citizens a reprieve from the truth that the world was being ravaged by the worst war in human history. Now in modern times, not only do we have music and film to assist us in gaining a break from the stresses of the real world, but we also have video games. Nothing says relaxation like ripping and tearing through hordes of demons as I rampage through hell. It's almost like the Doomslayer is COVID-19 and hell is Earth. Well, I guess that's more like a role-playing game. Well, what do you know? It's Cyberpunk 2077, the upcoming RPG from the developers of my favorite role-playing game of all time, The Witcher 3. Join me in today's video where we take a look at an article from a site called The Gamer, where they discuss the new customization option in Cyberpunk 2077 that'll allow players to change the size of their, well, let me use the correct medical terminology. I don't want to go against the YouTube language police robots after all. The new customization option that will allow players to adjust their fuck sticks, sweater stretchers, and ham wallets. Cyberpunk is a fascinating subgenre of science fiction. I've been in love with it ever since I saw Blade Runner as a kid. Probably not the most appropriate thing for a 10-year-old to be watching, but who has to know? Please don't tell my mom. After seeing Blade Runner, I remember feeling desperate to get my next fix, to find something that was similar to its beautifully futuristic yet disturbingly relatable feeling world. If you live in or have spent any time in San Francisco, you would understand why I find it so relatable. This is when my hunt for more cyberpunk content began. And not long after searching, I found a little anime called Ghost in the Shell. No, not that. Get that shit out of here. Yeah, there we go. That's more like it. Ghost in the Shell, like many other stories in its genre, tackled things like, what does it mean to be truly human? With augmentations playing a major role in the Ghost in the Shell universe, at what point do you become more machine than man?
Excuse me, it's ma'am!
Where is the line drawn between learning something as a human being would versus being programmed the way a machine would be? These are more heady and philosophical themes that can be found throughout the cyberpunk genre. There is a commonality that it shares where the backdrop is typically these very smoky and densely populated cities. People and cultures have been crammed together to form this amorphous blob of just mass. Most prevalent, you'll see English being mixed with things like Chinese lettering, which it was really a way to add an alien feel to the world that looks somewhat familiar, but it reminds you that you are in fact an outsider looking into this universe, or looking into a specific universe. Sleaze and sex is another aspect that the cyberpunk genre does not shy away from. Prostitutes, strippers, and motels that look like there's likely a complimentary needle left in your room after every turn-down service, done by the maid who's probably doubling as a hooker. The cyberpunk genre, more often than not, deals with mature themes, and it's meant for audiences who can handle and appreciate that. And this brings us to the most recent news that CD Projekt Red, who are the developers of the upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077, will allow players to customize their fun bits. Now with this announcement, I've seen Puritans clutching at their pearls on both the left and the right side of the political spectrum, but they do so for different reasons. I've seen more conservative people, my own friends and fellow content creators, who've just said that this is being done to pander to social justice warriors and virtue signal. Then I've seen folks on the left claim that this is just to make up for CD Projekt Red's past misdeeds for what they considered a slight against the trans community. Don't worry, I'll be coming back to that later. Now, I for one say both of these assessments are very off base, but for the most part, it would seem that everyone's having a good laugh at this news.
America, some people want small mommy GF with small milky, but we need to make sure the tent is big enough for the mommy GF with biggie milky and penis. My God, I need this.
I mean, after all, it's not something that we see all that commonly in games. I mean, we've gotten it in a Conan game, and Saints Row have allowed players to customize their characters in a somewhat similar fashion. So why is this newsworthy when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077? I'd have to say that it's because Cyberpunk 2077 is arguably the most anticipated game of 2020, barring any more delays of course, as well as being CD Projekt Red's big RPG follow-up to the incredible Witcher 3. Of course, there's been some controversy drummed up around this game in the past, but we're going to learn a little bit more about that in a bit. For now, let's take a look at an article over at thegamer.com called, "Is There Even a Point to Cyberpunk 2077's Genital Customization?" written by Tanner Fox. Now that's a fair question. I have my own answer to that, but let's dive into the article. True to form, the developers behind the immensely detailed Witcher 3 seems to be taking things to an even more drastic degree with their forthcoming project. We've known for some time that Cyberpunk 2077 would introduce themes and explore circumstances not often seen in gaming, but exactly how in-depth does genital customization need to be? Now this is true. Powell Sasko, apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name, the lead quest designer for the game, tweeted this out in regards to the leaks of the reasons Cyberpunk scored itself an M rating in the US and an 18+ rating in Brazil. The article continues. At the outset, this does seem to be very much in line with modern progressive values, and allowing characters' gender to be completely open and unrestricted will likely go down as a huge leap forward for those hoping for more representation in their interactive media. However, this raises several questions as to what the hell we'll actually be getting into when the game drops in September. And there it is, right on cue. The inclusion of genital customization has nothing to do with trying to be in line with, quote, modern progressive values. Now, why do I say that? Do you remember all of the garbage articles released complaining about how The Witcher 3 was too white? CD Projekt Red had to explain to these soggy biscuits that the time period and folklore that the game was based on was incredibly homogenous, so you're not going to see many non-white people unless they're coming from a faraway land, which in The Witcher 3, they do. But I guess that's not good enough. It doesn't count because Novigrad isn't full of black people. CD Projekt Red has also been accused of bigotry in the same exact game, Cyberpunk 2077, that this article is describing as being in line with progressive modern views. If you spend any amount of time online, you will undoubtedly see social justice warriors mashing their keyboards attempting to voice their demands for more forced diversity and token characters being put into things like games, film, and television. After all, it doesn't matter if the character's good, it only matters if they belong to what they consider a victimized group. Back in June of 2019, games journalists and professional victims alike were shocked, disgusted, and outraged that CD Projekt Red thought it was okay to put a trans woman on an in-game advertisement. How dare they include trans people in our games? Wait, what? That can't be right. Jesus Christ. You just can't win with these people. I don't understand. I can't. It honestly boggles the mind. CD Projekt Red would respond to this non-controversy by letting everyone know the reason that a trans person is being used in this ad is to make a commentary on corporate exploitation, which is something that I can agree with on multiple levels. We see this in our real lives. Corporations, like SJWs, value things like tokenism and people's more shallow traits such as skin color, sexual orientation, and gender, and they do this in order to assess somebody's value when it comes to what their opinions are actually worth. Not only that, but Cyberpunk has always had these monolithic corporations with unbelievable amounts of wealth and power, and they advertise to lower-class citizens who are found on the ground level in the slums. This plays into a staple of the genre, which is an emphasis on consumerism. Just buy that energy drink. Get those new brain implants. Get this new cyber implants. Give up more control. Leave behind more of what made you human. Just consume. Naturally, Cyberpunk could land on the other end of the spectrum, overindulging in sex and sexuality to the point that it feels distasteful. Would the gaming populace be prepared for that? Not too long ago, the world had a fit over the disturbing realism of the genitals of the NPCs in Watch Dogs 2, and if that's anything to go by, it seems that the wanton violence and graphic depictions of nudity don't go hand in hand all that well. Plus, some gamers found the depictions of sexuality in previous Witcher games to be a bit too crass. Hell, some people are still upset that you could kill strippers in Duke Nukem 3D. Whatever Cyberpunk 2077 is prepared to unleash upon us, we clearly aren't ready for it. Now, I have to just start off by saying I don't think people from 1996 are still upset that you could kill strippers in Duke Nukem 3D. I don't imagine anyone could hold a grudge over something like that for that long, especially when we've had other games that allow you to just bang prostitutes and kill them, like in Grand Theft Auto. I don't see that being realistic. Now again, with this puritanical fear of sex, in a genre like Cyberpunk, you're going to get exploitation, you're going to get over-sexualization of both men and women. Clearly, we've seen it with this trans person in this ad in the game. It's a part of the genre, and it's used to show this disconnect, this breakdown from a once more conservative society to a more progressive and carefree one, kind of like what we're seeing in our real lives. A society that does not value the human body the way we once did. It doesn't value what traditionally made people feel like humans, which of course leads to these interesting conflicts like we've seen in Deus Ex, where you have non-augmented humans afraid, and in some cases, well, in most cases in the game, hateful towards people who chose to partake in these body augmentations for one reason or another. I also find it odd that Tanner claims that people aren't ready for this, that, you know, people were upset about seeing realistic TNA in Watch Dogs 2. I don't really believe that there was that much of an outcry. It's not like we haven't had nudity in countless other games. Now, here's something that might blow your minds. Get ready for this. Prepare yourself. If you need to sit down, I highly recommend you do so. If you're at work, make sure you have headphones in. This is going to shock a couple people. Not all games are meant for all people. I'm not saying that these games should be gatekept by any means, but if you don't feel that you're mature enough or have the mental faculties, or you're not prepared to deal with seeing some things that might make you feel uncomfortable, that might conflict with your worldview, you probably shouldn't be playing that game. And I say this because if you don't feel that you meet a certain level of maturity, that you don't meet the requirements for an M-rated game, a mature experience, just because a small group of people don't meet that requirement, I don't think the rest of us should have to deal with an inferior product because of that. I'm pretty sick of seeing developers and publishers feel like they have to pull their punches because they may offend somebody. When it's all said and done, more customization is always a good thing. If we as players are being given more options, more tools to create the character that we have in our minds, I'm all for it. Now, I have my own limitations on this personally when it comes to things like multiplayer games. I still like customization options to be thematically accurate. I'm looking at you, Battlefield 5, you loathsome fuck. But in a single-player experience like we have here in Cyberpunk 2077, I say go all out. We're going to be role-playing in a world full of endless possibilities when it comes to what somebody can add to their body and change about their appearance, so it makes sense that we as a player would get some control over that aspect. Not only that, but CD Projekt Red, they've come out saying that player customization will come into play from a narrative aspect, so that's going to be interesting to see as well. No matter how big you're going to make your dick and balls, or how large you're going to make your breasts when Cyberpunk 2077 releases later this year in September, there's only one important thing to do.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
And that does it for today's video. Cyberpunk 2077 is easily my most anticipated game of this year. Not even just of this year, in recent memory. I honestly can't remember the last time I've allowed myself to feel excited for a game without this lingering voice in the back of my head saying I'm gonna get disappointed. As always, I want to know what you think about all of this, so leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you gonna be making your own Fuda waifu? Just let me know down in the comments. If you liked the video, drop a like, and if you really want to support my channel, hit the subscribe button and share this video on social media, as it really does help me out. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Metal Gear Mando. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you in the next video.